Awesome.
All right, we have people coming in now. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, everyone. Can you hear my jam in the background?
Very, very well. Nice and loud, Jaron. You know the words to this? Can you sing along?
Oh, yeah, that's for another webinar, I think, for karaoke.
Actually, as I can see a ton of people joining in already, which is great. Welcome, Brittany and Carrie, Craig, multiple Craigs. Curtis, hey, good to see Curtis as always, bud. Kevin and Laura. While we're waiting here, why don't we get people just to type in the chat window where they're from? And I'm from Vancouver, by the way. Jaron, where are you from, bud?
I'm in Calgary, out in Calgary. Yeah, beautiful day here too. Yeah, sun's out.
Awesome. So yeah, just in the chat window, I'm sure we're all Zoom aficionados. Yeah, Brittany from Seattle, welcome. Laura from Irvine, California, Cincinnati, Olga from Vancouver, Sacramento. Stephanie from Calgary, right on. We got Winnipeg strong. We have a multinational representation, which is great. So welcome everybody. We're gonna get her going in about Santa Fe. Awesome. We're gonna get her going in about, what do you think? 10 more seconds, 20 more seconds, Jaron?
Yeah, a couple more seconds here. Get some more people to join in.
Excellent.
Glad to see a fellow Calgarian on the call too. Stephanie, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Well, should we get started?
Let's do it, sir.
Awesome. Okay. Well, it's going to be a very interactive session, like we mentioned. So feel free to ask any questions like that. Put it in the chat. Use that question bar as well. But before we kind of jump into things, we'll just do a little intro. So as you could hear, joining me is Jason Lindstrom. He's a passionate entrepreneur. Over the past 18 years, Jason has built 3 high-tech growth companies with a focus on attracting and retaining best talent. He's the CEO over at Bucket List Rewards, an employee recognition and rewards platform. Jason has been a guest lecturer at a bunch of different places, Simon Fraser University, University of British Columbia, speaking on a variety of topics, including high performance corporate cultures and entrepreneurship. And fun fact, Jason, you can walk on your hands out here. I still haven't actually seen it in person, but
after today's webinar, I'll do it. I shall, you know what? And co-hosting with me here today is Jaron Mueller. He is a former professional athlete. Prior to joining Bucket List, he headed up culture and inclusivity over at Mount Royal University. And maybe a quick fun fact about Jaron is he is also the founder of the Canadian Professional Volleyball Association. And he's just a good all-around dude, and we're super excited to have him as our cultural evangelist. And to kind of get into it, as always, I just wanted to share the 10-second overview of Bucket List, but also why is this relevant? We are an enterprise rewards and recognition platform. We've worked with everything from Fortune 100s all the way down to startups, and we've worked across all sectors. That includes financial services, a ton of high tech, a lot of healthcare, and we're going to be sharing these examples and ideas inside of today's session. And the whole purpose of this, of doing these sessions, is we're really on a mission to help people leader build the best cultures possible. And so what does that mean? And what I always say is I've attended a number of webinars myself. And my takeaway or goal for you today is that by attending today's session, you could walk away with sort of somewhere between 1 to 3 plus actionable ideas that you can implement into your organization. And I certainly think we have a ton of cool ideas for you today.
Awesome. Jared? Yeah. So we'll just kind of go through the run of show here. So it's in today's webinar. We'll share a few key statistics and some general best practices in the introduction. And then we're going to dive into some awesome case studies, real life examples, some actionable takeaways that you all can take away from this. And then once you recognize staff, we'll kind of dive into rewards as well. And then leave some time for some question and answers. And also your credit will come at the end as well. So stay tuned for that. So we can dive right in. So I don't know about you guys, it's been blowing up my media feed, but if you've heard about the resignation boom that's going on right now, so why don't you use the chat? You can do a guess here. So how many remote workers are going to be leaving their jobs because there's no remote option? So why don't you use the chat box? Let's see if we have any Any good guess how smart our audience is today? Oh yeah, 22%, 80%, 40%. Yeah, we got all the answers on the board. So 60%. Okay, awesome. So if we go to the next slide there, Jason. So 42% of those workers are going to be leaving if there's no remote option. So this kind of shows that, productivity has stayed level, if not gone up, with these flexible work hours and location at home. Yet employers are really pushing to get employees back into the office. So with this new normal, and there needs to be a lot of communication and engagement, obviously, with employees to kind of mitigate how this is going to work. So if we take this number and we dive in a little bit deeper on our next slide. Oh, yeah,
If
go
I
ahead,
may, I'll
Jason.
share just a really short anecdote or a story related to this. When I first read the stat, I was like, what my assumption was, my bias was that this would be kind of maybe junior to intermediate roles that would be searching for like a new opportunity. As this turned out, specifically what happened, I had a C-level person reach out to me from a very large $100 million company saying how they were going to move from remote back into kind of a hybrid, fully in office model. And they were now looking to switch jobs. So I don't know if anybody else had that bias, but what I was surprised by is I think this would apply across the board. So junior, intermediate, and very senior level staff. So something really to be aware of. But sorry, Jaron, back to you, bud.
No, that's great. So kind of dive in a little bit deeper, regardless of remote environments, what percentage do you think are going to be looking for new jobs, regardless after the pandemic? And I'm excited for Kevin's answer because he won the last one. So let's see if he's going to get the right one this time around.
So the guess is plan to what percent? Okay. What
Yeah.
you're asking is what percent plan to look for a new job regardless of the pandemic?
Yeah. So what the workforce, regardless if it's remote or not, just they're looking for new work. It's got 20%, 70%. Awesome. All right. Well, a little drum roll. The actual number is going to be 26%. So basically a quarter of the workforce, regardless, is going to be potentially looking and poking around for new jobs with retention rates. So with the pandemic, there's a lot of uncertainty. So obviously human nature to, be comfortable and safe at your house and with your current job. But now people are feeling safe and comfortable. So now they're going to be looking at different options, and with, communication and different things going on, they're not sure if this is still the right fit for them. So listening to employees, recognizing employees, and appreciating the work and the change that they've been doing is more important now than ever. And that's kind of what we're going to dive into today. So
Awesome.
Jason, yeah, totally.
Thanks, Jaron. Cool. So as Jaron said, obviously nobody wants to lose an A player. That's probably one of the most painful things that can happen to an organization. And of course, one of the most effective ways to reduce turnover is through an effective recognition and rewards program. And in just a few moments, we're going to be sharing a bunch of best practices and ideas. Quick fun fact or tip, what we've seen is that when you do roll out a great program, it can lower voluntary turnover by as much as 40%, which is huge. And Jaron's going to be speaking to this very specifically. Craig said, where do the statistics come from? I don't see a citation. So you know what? We're going to be sending this deck after today's session. I'm going to include we will include citations to all these stats. That's a great point. From this specific one, this is actually from our own work, working in healthcare, for example, and we'll show this in just a few moments. But to truck right along, indeed, how are the best doing it? And what are some takeaways that we're hoping you can implement into your organization today? I'm going to turn it back over to Jaron in just a few moments. But I wanted to talk about two best practices that just speak to the importance of how to roll out recognition on its own. So the first tip is just to make it impactful is you want it to be timely, specific, frequent, and ideally incorporate your company values or sort of key behaviors. We're going to be talking a lot about platforms and how to systemically roll out a program to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of employees. But just the simple act of recognition, one person to another, is deeply meaningful. I was just chatting, we were launching with a company called the other day, and we were talking about how today we're talking about employee recognition, but recognition is valuable no matter who you are. So whether you're a parent, whether you're a leader, whether you're a CEO, everybody wants to feel appreciated and loved. And it's one of the most powerful tools to keep people engaged. And one more quick tip before we get into some awesome ideas. When you do roll out a recognition program, you want to incorporate it into all your company's favorite communication tools. So what does that mean? Today, I'm sure your organization has a preferred method of communication. Maybe it's virtual meetings, maybe it's instant messaging, maybe it's mobile. You just want to make sure your recognition program is plugged in and represented there. If your program's easy to access and easy to use, utilization will go way up. And we'll talk a bit more about this in the examples. But with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jaron. He's got some just awesome ideas from a company you may be familiar with.
Yeah, sounds good. I don't know if you guys have heard of this company, but obviously they are doing a lot of things great. So we wanted to kind of dive into some of their recognition rewards platform and programs. So to give you, just hop to the next slide there, Jason, to give you kind of a background, the best practice they did right off the bat was that they recognized and understood what employees really wanted. So they were surveying them, they had focus groups, and really tried to get their voice heard. What came from those meetings was 5 main areas. So the first 3 being a way to increase, specific, frequent, targeted recognitions. So the first is managers are able to give on-spot recognition and bonuses. Peers are also able to do that because they see what each other are doing every day. And also not everyone likes to be recognized individually. So they also had options for teams to be recognized for doing great work as well. So the 4th point there too is they're going to do shout outs. So this is kind of a platform somewhere that everyone can see. So they can kind of, like a news feed, see exactly what's going on around the company. And lastly, custom rewards. So again, from those surveys, understanding how they are really motivated and how they can reward in a certain way that gets employees on board.
And maybe one quick comment on that custom rewards. I've shared this in some of the other webinars we did, but it's worth mentioning again. Google actually took the time to test the effectiveness of some of the different rewards that they offer. And they, for example, compared a cash reward to an experience. And they did some A/B testing. And what they found out is that a personalized experience is far more impactful to employees because it is indeed personalized, whereas cash can create a sense of jealousy and competitiveness. So you want to, as Jaron was saying, and as Google's done, you do want to personalize rewards, and experiences can be a very effective way to do so.
Yeah, definitely. So this is kind of a real life example. They had something called G Thanks. So it makes it really easy to have employees engaged with the recognition program and be able to see what's going on throughout the organization. So it kind of acts like a social media like feed. It kind of breaks down those silos and shows visibility and some of the awesome things that all of the employees are doing throughout the organization. Obviously, with the silos that are happening now, this is very important. Also, it's a very easy way to just, on the right-hand side there on the screen, you can just type in something that's been going really well in your team or with your teammates. And it pops onto the feed, and again, everyone can kind of see that. So that's just kind of a real world example of how that can be portrayed in an organization. So for the outcomes, as you can see, there's 460% increase in the recognition. And then that quote is really great there from Laszlo Bock. It kind of shows that, a top company like Google and a C-level executive like that really values rewards and recognition. And he said that the most effective way to engage and have employees feel valued.
And one other quick question or comment I might throw in here related to all this. A lot of people, when we mention Google, they're like, well, we don't necessarily have the same budgets as Google. What's super important to note is that you can roll out this type of program. And if you remember what Jaron just mentioned earlier, there's like peer recognition, there's manager spot bonuses. You can do a lot of this in an incredibly affordable manner. And don't forget, the active recognition on its own is free. There's no cost associated with that. And then the different pillars, the executive bonuses, the no name awards, the active recognition of all of those can be done for free and can be done today. And then we'll share in a few moments a whole bunch of cool ideas of how you can reward people very affordably as well. Sorry, I hope I didn't mess with your flow there, Jared.
No, no, not at all. No, it's great commentary to have. So thanks for the added points. The next example here is in the healthcare side of things. So hopefully some of you maybe can get some actual takeaways from this as well. But we have Home Instead. So Home Instead is a company that goes out and provides support kind of out in the community as well. And we're kind of going to go through their background on the next slide there, Jason. So basically, they had a couple of things they really wanted to target. They wanted to reward what actually matters. And this is a really important best practice, is to really give a purpose and how to give recognition and why. So to take a deeper look, instead of just saying good job, how else can they use that make it, you know, a little bit more motivating for employees, to actually go over what activities and what desired behaviors drive success, not only as an individual, but also towards your company KPIs. So that kind of is a general background of how Home Instead wanted to use an effective recognition program. So next slide there is going to show you how they did it. So building off that purpose, and which give employees the direction and how to recognize each other. They want to also find out what day-to-day tasks and basis really made people feel appreciated. So that kind of shows you there with the celebrated last minute shift pickups. That was appreciated on both ends. They want to make sure they had a area to recognize for that. The other great point there is they created awards based off of their mission and their core value. They really pride themselves in a family-like culture, and care is a huge part of what they do inside and outside the company. So they wanted to have an award that drove that. Also, safety is important. So they had a safety contest and rewards and recognition along the way there. And in general, just having this purpose and direction is just going to increase the frequency of the recognitions. So their outcomes, they're very proud to have reducing their voluntary turnover by 40%. They had that purpose and direction to really have a platform to give those shout outs to the coworkers. Very interesting point there too, is since they are out and about in different houses in different areas, it's really hard to see for managers what's being done out there. So having that peer-to-peer really was able to show that there was great work being done that wasn't always seen. And that was really important to employees as well. So that's kind of the example for Home Instead.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Jared. Next up, we're going to give more of a retail / hospitality point of view. And you know what I'm going to do? There's actually quite a few people on the call. I'm just going to throw up a quick poll survey on screen. I'm really interested to see what industry people are from, and that'll help kind of guide us and also some of the future speaking points. So I'm going to throw this up there. Give me a second. So I'm going to pop this up. What industry are you from, or what examples are you interested in seeing? So you should see that up on screen now. Feel free to answer the poll. So we have healthcare, knowledge-based retail, okay, good. Education, there's representatives from all sectors with a bit of a bias towards healthcare and knowledge-based tech companies. Yeah, great. Okay, cool. So obviously Google is, I'm going to go ahead and end poll here. So obviously the Google example that Jared spoke to is a great example of a knowledge-based company. And again, I know it's Google, but when I say knowledge-based, we mean anybody in front of a computer. So it can be tech, it could be professional services like a law firm or an accounting firm. It could be a city environment. Healthcare, that's Home Instead. And then we're actually going to talk about retail and hospitality next. So the example we're going to use is Peter Piper Pizza. What's kind of cool about this team and organization, they had a fairly large company, over 2,000 staff in over 50 different locations. They also had a really diverse workforce, a whole bunch of salary and a whole bunch of hourly staff with a heavy or / younger demographic. And their intention was they really wanted to bring their mission values alive into the organization. And one of the barriers they faced is that very few staff had access to computers or could get in, basically in front of a computer. But however, they did have access to mobile devices, so like iPhones, Androids, etc. So what did they do? They actually rolled out a program that was primarily manager to employee in format at first. And they did it all on mobile. And the idea is when managers see an employee doing something great, they can take a photo of them, they can post it to their feed, and they can recognize staff for outstanding performance. And they're recognizing things that are really important to Peter Piper Pizza. So that includes things like safety, customer service, providing really tasty food. They did a really cool branded program where they've created cool badges and cool names for all these different awards. And every month, managers are enabled and encouraged to hand out a specific number of rewards in each of these different categories. And they can post it online. And they've had awesome utilization and really good uptake. A couple of other things that I think are cool and worth mentioning. They don't just use a program to create a sense of well-being and connectedness. They also use it for recruitment. So when they're recruiting staff, they mention the recognition program. Something else I've seen that's can be really powerful is sharing recognition stories on a company's career page. They also use the platform as just a way to stay in touch with a large number of employees. So in their specific case, they can recognize at a location level. So they have 50 locations. Managers inside of each location can be recognizing. But maybe you're like a CEO or CFO, you can also get a good global view of what's happening across your entire organization. They also did a bunch of things like automating birthdays and anniversaries and even quarterly awards, just to ensure that there's good utilization. And the automation as well, there's a bunch of ways to do it. You can kind of hack this together internally, or if you use a platform, you can indeed automate a whole bunch of rewards. I would highly encourage the use of automation where possible. You don't want to over automate your program. You never want to take away from the personalized recognition, but some things like anniversaries, you can weave in some automation to it to make everybody's job easier. Just outcomes, they had great satisfaction, good uptake. It was a really easy to use program, so there's a high level of participation. And there's a whole bunch of different varieties and flavors of employee recognition programs. If they're easy to use, and the best ones I've seen, and for example, we built, they often have like a social media look and feel to them. So if your staff have used Facebook or Instagram, when they get into the platform, there'll be no surprises. They'll be able to quickly understand how to use it. And then next up, I was going to talk about University of Texas. And this is relevant for, well, a bunch of reasons. I can see a bunch of people are actually from the educational space. So let's get into this and share a few ideas. So what's a background? This is a fairly common background from my experience. So specifically over at UTA, they did an employee engagement. They did a survey of their team. And what they found out was that people felt like they're working in silos. Staff were working hard, but they didn't get recognized for the good things they were doing. And there wasn't much cross communication between departments. And a recognition program, in addition and kind of going above to making people recognized, does an awesome job of breaking down silos, making people feel recognized, and basically connecting your company. And so what they did, they rolled out a really great peer-to-peer program. They utilized points. And something else I thought was really cool is due to some restrictions, because they're a post-secondary institution, they weren't able to handle what we call monetary rewards. So they do not hand out things like gift cards. They don't hand out like big fancy experiences. They do something just called company-specific rewards. And I'm going to share a couple of examples of what those look like in a second. And this is a great way, if some companies have limitations around budgets or maybe just limitations around regulations, non-monetary rewards can be an awesome way to get a program up and running in a very cost-effective manner. So that leads me to rewards. And I know one of the most common questions I get asked is, how do we reward our staff in a way that matters to them? What are the most popular rewards? And in just a few seconds, we're going to show you exactly how to figure that out. Broadly speaking, there's kind of different buckets we identify rewards into. I'll call them like company specific or company options. There's personalized local experiences. And then of course, gift cards, kind of the cash bonus idea. So I'm going to talk about the company option first. And that's just kind of a fancy way of saying these are rewards that you can often give out at very low cost or no cost. And so for example, it can be like company swag. It can be time off or paid time off. VIP parking. I've seen ideas like 4 p.m. Friday, so people get to get off work a little bit early, an extended lunch. I've seen some more playful ones like where your manager can bring you coffee for the week. I've legitimately have seen pie my boss in the face, which I don't know if I would approve that one, but it it just shows you how you can be really playful and you can build in a rewards marketplace. And if you review a lot of these, they don't actually, in many cases, have a direct monetary cost. And this is something like what UTA did in their implementation. And again, it can be a highly effective way to roll out a program for a very effective price, very low cost, no cost type of manner. Next up, I'm going to talk a bit about personalized or local rewards. So of note, if you genuinely want to find out how your staff want to be recognized, just ask them. It is easy to spin up a survey these days and to ask your employees. If you're looking for advice, feel free to connect with Jaren or I after today's session. I'd be happy to share a bunch of questions that you can reuse to survey your staff to find out how they indeed want to be recognized. But when you ask staff how they want to be recognized, I think you might be surprised. Some real world examples I've heard. There's an organization called O2E or 1-800-GOT-JUNK. When they asked their staff, they said things like they want to learn a new language. Lunch with the CEO can be really meaningful. Doing things like learn to fly. Spa days, especially during COVID, especially during higher stress periods. A spa day can be really meaningful to people. I've also seen fun and playful things like vineyard tours, brewery tours. To go the extra mile, you can reward both the employee and their significant other or partner. What's cool about that is when a company reaches out and deeply takes care of an employee, it's really impactful. And just as a quick example, over at O2E, some of the ways they've rewarded staff is, for example, one fellow named Jerry, he ended up going to Tanzania. He helped build a school there. This is deeply impactful in his life. There's some fellows named Parker and Evgeny. They ended up driving some supercars. Again, when you ask people how they want to be rewarded, you'll be surprised at the answers. And if you can actually make that happen, it will be deeply impactful. Jaren, how do you want to be rewarded, bud? What would be deeply meaningful to you?
Yeah, I think especially during these times, I was going to add in is a trip, a weekend, a stay away vacation, to get out of Dodge for a little bit, just outside the city or something like that.
Awesome. And as a company, that'd be pretty darn easy to facilitate as well.
Definitely.
I always like to connect ideas to kind of impactful quotes or statistics. And this is awesome. So a 10-year study of the world's 50 best businesses, including Apple, concludes that those who centered their business on a culture of improving people's lives had a growth rate triple that of competitors in the same category. So when you deeply take care of your staff, there's a massive ROI and you build a great company culture on the way. It's a true win-win. Lastly, we're all familiar with this one, but it does bear worth mentioning. Gift cards and cash bonuses can have a place in recognition and of course rewards. There's what I've seen in my experience, there's big rewards and then there's little rewards. Sometimes there's point-based programs, sometimes there's not. Like giving somebody a coffee on us, maybe as a welcome award, maybe it's a Starbucks gift card, for example, can be a fun, playful way just to welcome people into the team. Gift cards do have a time and a place inside of a rewards and recognition platform. It's just a matter of whether they're a fit for your culture or not. Excellent. So what have we covered today? We indeed did cover a lot of ground. We talked about why recognition is more important than ever. We talked about some ideas and best practices from a variety of industries and companies. And of course, we kind of shared some popular reward ideas. And in just a few seconds, we're going to open it up to Q&A. I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your questions today. Before we get into that, I would love to shift gears and talk a little bit more about bucket list rewards. We are the #1 ranked employee rewards and recognition platform. And if you want to build an insanely great culture, break down barriers or company silos, or reward and recognize your staff in the best way possible, just request a demo. We're gonna try something a little bit different here. If you're interested in the chat window, if you want to learn more about the platform, get a customized demo, I'm going to include a little link in the chat window. Just go ahead and click that link and take a few moments to request a demo. Our team will really customize and tailor it for your industry and sector, and you can really kind of get a bunch of cool ideas of how to recognize your team. And then additionally, I'm going to throw up one more quick poll. And I'm going to jump into Kevin's question in about 10 seconds. Thank you. Kevin, I see your question, sir. I'm going to come right back to that and answer it. I'm going to pop up a quick question. Do you want to see a demo of bucket list rewards? Let me a second to launch this poll. So for those of you on today's call, if you're interested in seeing a demo, just click yes. If you're not interested, cool as well. But if you want us to help solve those pain points, we're awesome at doing so. Going to give that about another 10 or 20 seconds. Great. And go ahead and end poll, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Great.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
once that poll is all closed up, we'll make sure to get you guys your credit there for watching today. So go ahead and again, you're going to get these slides with all the information that we just talked about. So you'll get it on there as well. But there you go, is that. And then, yeah, we can open it up to some question and answers. I think that Kevin's question is a great one to start with.
yeah,
Jason. Yeah.
Just of note, can you see on screen there, Jaron, the SHRM code?
I can, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So for all those you want this code, we're good to go. And then let's jump into Q&A. And do you want to tackle that first one, Jaron, from Kevin, or shall I?
Yeah, for sure. I think from my feel free to add into Jason. Obviously, surveying that many staff is tough to do, and finding everything perfect. So what we find is that having those three options all available is really a good way to having different options for the employees to find what they want. So instead of just picking one broad gift card or one broad experience, actually having those options so that they can go in and after doing a great job, they can decide what they can do. So just having the most diverse kind of marketplace to have all those different options is really helpful.
Cool. And I'll add to Jaron's comments there on Kevin, and I'll answer Craig's question as well. So Kevin, one thing we've seen work really well. So what your use case is, you have 1,300 staff and 100 locations. There's a few options. So in the survey, you can provide recommended ideas. You don't need to send it out to all 1,300 staff if you don't want to. You can send out to a cross section of teams. And normally what you'll see is themes emerge really quickly. And typically, what I think we'll do as a takeaway, Jaron, maybe we can make note of this. We'll just send everybody the questions we survey we recommend surveying people with, so you can have a sense of what to ask your employees. But normally we have a bunch of like 10 to 30 recommended ideas, and then we have a little open field that says, how do you want to be rewarded? And then one other comment on that, again, you don't have to send it to all 1,300. Maybe there's 5 to 7 teams. You can send it to a small cross section of each team, which will allow you to really capture the essence of your organization. And then survey platforms. So SurveyMonkey can do this pretty darn easy. It's incredibly affordable and easy to deploy both at a small and enterprise level. Oh, thanks, Jim. Yeah. So Jim Nelson said, what is our website? We are Bucket Alt. Jaron, would you mind typing that into the chat window? We're just bucketlisterewards.com. If you want to hear more about us, we're happy to share that on our website. Oh, thanks, Laura. I'm glad you found the session really helpful. Jaron typed in our web address there. Oh, Jim, Jim Nelson, thank you, sir, for also typing in our web address there as well.
Yeah, I have another question here too, Jason. Just so something that comes up commonly with us is how can you walk us through a bit of the process on how to actually launch a process that some of these companies have done?
Yeah. So when it comes to implementing a program like this, there are some best practices. And at a high level, I would encourage you to survey your staff to find out how they want to be both rewarded and recognized. not everybody wants to be recognized publicly, so it's important to capture whether some people prefer privately or publicly. Additionally, you want to do a bit of a communication audit. So how is your organization, what are your company's favorite communication tools? And then when it comes to rolling out the program, just a few things I've seen that are super effective is you want to create a bit of buzz around the program. So prior to launch to anywhere between sort of 2 to 8 weeks out, you want to start promoting the upcoming program. I'd also provide training to managers and leaders. And in that training, two big things. You want to communicate the value of recognition, and you also want to show people how to use the platform. When managers and staff have a chance to recognize, use a tool even once prior to launch, utilization will go way up. And then at launch, be sure to conduct some sort of, the best launches I've seen they're either a hybrid or a live event. So you can do it all on Zoom or Zoom and in a room. And some of the best things I've seen is having leaders recognize staff for great performance. And ideally kind of making and handing out rewards that are personalized and meaningful. And then post-launch, you want to track the performance of your program to make sure utilization is good. And on an ongoing basis, it's always nice to roll out kind of new features as well, just to keep it fresh and engaging. And those at a high level are some of the best practices we've seen from our side that result in a lot of excitement and fun when you launch, and also great utilization.
Yeah, to kind of build off that too. Also, we do have some time, everyone. So if you want to pop in some questions, like Jason did, go for it. But another one that comes up too that builds off the last question, Jason, is the management buy-in side of things. So when you're launching, kind of how do you get the managers a little bit more engaged with this recognition program?
Yeah. So it's funny. A lot of times you'll have a great HR lead, CHRO, et cetera. They're like excited. I want to implement this program. It is really important to get management buy-in and alignment. From my experience, the exec team or senior leadership teams, they normally have kind of their top 3 list. And unless an initiative makes that top 3 list, it's hard to get a go on it, to get a green light on it. And so to raise the importance of a program like this, there's a few key things. First, you want to build a bit of a business case or a use case. So you can, in that survey that we're going to share those questions, you can ask staff whether they feel recognized or not. And if staff do not feel recognized, share those testimonials with your leadership team. And then additionally, there's this huge ROI to recognition. And more importantly, all the best companies in the world have a recognition program in place, whether that's like Disney, whether that's Google, whether that's different branches of the military. All the best organizations recognize great performance. And if you dig a little bit deeper, and as we've done, recognition has a huge ROI. You can lower voluntary turnover by more than 40%. You can increase employee engagement by more than 25%. So you want to survey your staff, share the results with the executive team. You want to make sure they're really clear on the ROI. And you want to build this business case alongside them, get the participation. Ideally, if you have a recognition group, get one of the senior leadership team members to participate. Present the findings of said program, and then pivot into the launch once you get approval. But that, from my experience, those are some best practices to getting good buy-in and getting a green light on a program like this.
Thanks, Jason. Is there a general timeline that usually works for how long this kind of takes to get employees going?
Yeah, it depends upon the size of the organization. What we've seen is sort of like 1 to 3 months. So for example, if you have, if you're like, 250, 500 staff, if you're a slightly smaller team with a smaller number of locations, it's a lot easier to launch faster. If you have a large team, 10,000 to 50,000, 50 plus locations, you want to probably spread that out over a number of months. And ideally, it is best to launch geographically specific. So if you have like an office in Vancouver, maybe do a launch in that time zone. If there's one in New York, do a launch in that time zone. If there's one in Prague, same thing, do a launch in that local time zone. So it's sort of between 1 to 3 plus months, depending upon the size and complexity of the organization.
Awesome. Yeah, we had some feedback just to learn a little bit more about bucket lists. So I'm just going to pop that link back into the chat. If you are looking, hopefully that link in the chat box will work for you if you are looking to talk with bucket list a little bit more. Yeah, well, another question again, guys. We have some more time here. If you do want to hop in a question into the chat, the other one that comes up a lot, Jason, that you maybe speak to, is just some common mistakes or how we mitigate how people, just instead of recognizing your friend back and forth, how do you kind of, you know, help people do it purposeful and with direction?
If you're using a platform, for example, like ours, there's kind of like some audit logs that can keep track of a potential abuse. So if two people continue to recognize just one another, there's ways to flag that using technology. And then additionally, training plays a hugely important role. So prior to rollout of a program, you explain how to use it. Also, people are going to model the behavior. So at launch, if you show people how to use a platform correctly, you're gonna have a lot more people. Basically, like whatever the leaders do, the team will tend to follow. So if the leaders are recognizing using some of the best practices we mentioned earlier, so timely, specific, incorporate a company core value, you'll see your employees doing that as well. And then also, as much as possible, keeping the program public. Having a recognition feed that looks a lot like social media, that's public, that's on your intranet, that the leadership team talk about on a regular basis, can be a really powerful way to create awareness and reduce any sort of abuse.
Yeah, we do have some great questions here actually in the Q&A.
Right.
Yeah, first of all, from Miriam, the option for non-monetary gifts for the recognition program. So that was a great example you can reference back into the slides with the University of Texas Arlington. There's a lot of different ways that don't actually have that gift card or the bonus or going out and doing experiences much, but actually finding ways like, parking spots, going out for lunch or coffee with someone, having all different types of swag from the university that's already in inventory. There's lots of different ways that you can kind of use those points as well.
Awesome. And I see another good one from Brandon Norcini asking about how to increase utilization rates of the program. So there's a handful of things. There's some quick wins I'll mention, and maybe you're doing some of these. And there's also a whole bunch of deeper dive items I can review with you. But one of the best ways to get high utilization is to make sure the program's easy to access. So you can plug it into things like email, like Outlook or Gmail, meaning people can recognize right from their favorite tools. You can plug it into instant messaging like Slack or say MS Teams. For example, we have integrations with our platform, so people can recognize from their favorite communication tool. And then additionally, if you have regular team meetings or fireside chats, have leaders, senior leaders, take 5 minutes of those fireside chats to talk about the great work, to pull up your recognition program and highlight some of the great work that's happened. Whatever managers talk about and pay attention to, the rest of your team will as well. And then there's all sorts, again, using technology, you can send out automated prompts to encourage people to be looped back into the platform. And then if you were to weave the program into like weekly one-to-ones and just kind of gently prompt people and speak to the value of a recognition program, kind of that will also drive up utilization. So integrations, talk about the program, have leadership specifically talk about the program. And then there's a bunch of things you can do from a technology point of view.
Awesome. Yeah, Brian has another great question here. Is it important to have different awards for employees who live in different countries? And should they stay the same across all regions to reduce employees feeling as if they're offered all the same as others? So from what I've seen, I would say that awards are important to be kind of brought across the whole entire company because they are connected to core values and the mission, the statements. So the awards that are given out have everyone that can get them and have that purpose and direction. But what you can do with those awards, or if there's rewards tied to that, then that's when you can kind of diversify and try those different areas. People can choose what they would like to do after getting that award. So that's kind of what I've seen worked. Jason, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think that's a really good summary, Sharon. I think it is indeed good to have like some consistency across the whole organization. Very specifically, for example, like I suspect the company core values don't change by region, and as Jaron just said, it's really important to you'd want to keep the core values consistent across the entire organization, and you'd probably want to weave those into your peer-to-peer program. I have sometimes seen rewards crop up by team type. So your sales team might have a sales reward, or maybe your software engineering team might have an innovation reward. So you might want to create some departmental specific rewards, and those are often tied to performance or KPIs. So there's definitely an opportunity to do that sort of thing as well. Awesome. That was a super fun session.
Yeah, great questions, everyone. Thanks for the engagement. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think with that, I know a ton of people are still on the call, but I think we've answered all the questions. And what we can probably do now is move to adjourn the meeting. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. Looks like a bunch of you love the information. Indeed, that was our intention. We're here to help. If there's anything else we can answer or support you with, sincerely, just let us know. Reach out to myself or Jaron. Feel free to hit up our website. The entire team here is we love helping people. We love helping people build great cultures. So with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us today, and looking forward to seeing you at future sessions. Thanks very much, Jaron. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Have a great summer. Take care.